All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Building Bridges, Empowering Communication, Fostering Inclusive Communications for Black Professionals' Mental Health. I'm Emoji Harvey. I am a Black Mental Wellness Ambassador who will be supporting this session today, and I would like it to turn it over to our wonderful speaker today, Miss Morgan Carey.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. I hope everyone is enjoying the conference so far, had time to enjoy some of the other sessions and get something out of it for sure. Like Imaje said, my name is Morgan Carey. I am a mental health, breast cancer, and communication coach, right? And that's what I do for a company called Love to Life Coaching. It's my company, Love to Life Coaching LLC. I feel super honored to be here. The name of the company is Love to Life because everything starts and ends with love, and you need love in order to do this thing called life. That's what I do for myself, but in my day job, I am a director of HR, talent, and diversity. And how all of these things mash up is beyond me, but they are all connected. There is like a common thread through all of them. And hopefully by the end of this session, you will be able to see that. You can see what's on the screen, like I said, but and you can see what my titles are. But let me tell you who Morgan Carey is. I have a collage here just to give you a little glimpse into my world. I am an auntie, a sister, a daughter, a niece. I love speaking. I love speaking about the things I want to speak about. And I love spending time with my family and friends. I am a breast cancer survivor who helps other survivors get through diagnosis by promoting fitness after diagnosis and treatment. I think communication is a skill that isn't talked about enough. It's not taught enough. But if it's mastered, it can help us all to build relationships and be more successful. But before we get into what we're here to talk about, I want to be able to hear from some of you. So in the chat, I'd like for you to type your name, where you're located, and one word that describes how your year has been so far. If you can't believe it, we're in November already, right? So we're towards the end of the year. We got December, and before you know it, we'll be saying Happy New Year, and it'll be 2024. So I think it's fitting. A lot of times we hear, tell me one thing about yourself. I want you to tell me one word that describes how your year has been so far. You don't have to tell me a whole sentence. You don't have to tell me what has really happened this year. I just want one word, one adjective that tells me how your year has been so far. Hello, I see intense. Yeah. Blessed, fulfilled, exhausting. Yeah, I can relate. I can relate. Transformative. That's nice. Nice. Shifting a lot. Whirlwind. These are some good ones. These are some good ones. Liberation. Emotional roller coaster. That's right. Sometimes we're like up and down, right? Just trying to hold on, keep it together. All right. Thank you for that. Roller coaster. Tumultuous. Yeah. That's major, right? Fulfilling. That's a good one. Fulfilling. Emotional. For sure. For sure. I'm sure you're thinking about like what's going to be happening next year. Hopefully it's a little calmer for those that are tumultuous start or emotional. All right. So we talked about this one word to describe how your year has been. Now what I want you to think about, and you don't have to type anything in the chat. You don't have to tell me about it. It's this, you don't have to do anything physically. I just need you to think about it, right? Think about one word that you want to use for next year. So there's this book that I've read called One Word to Change Your Life. Put a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if you have heard of this book, right? If you've heard of this book, One Word to Change Your Life, right? And the idea of it is to choose a word, right? And then try to accomplish or do things around this word to make the thing, to bring those things into your life, right? That you'll spend everything you got trying to make sure you focus on that word for the year, right? You don't have to pick the word right now. You don't have to pick it. I just want you to think about it. I want you to think about doing this. And so when January 1 comes, I want you to remember that Morgan Carey, that coach that was at the mental health conference, told you to pick a word, right? Pick a word. And this word, out of all the words in the world, right? You can pick any word you want. Any word you want. There's no limitation. So for example, if you choose peace, then when January 2024 comes, you are going to start to do everything you can to achieve peace. If you pick believe, you want to do everything you can to believe in the positive things in life, right? If you pick intentional, then you are going to try to be intentional about all the things that you need, that you feel that you need to be intentional about, and you watch the things that happen. If you would like to share, I would like for you to share with me. So at the end of this presentation, there's going to be some information, how you can get in contact with me in 3 or 4 different ways. And listen, the first five people to share with me what their word is going to be using that contact information will get a free coaching session from me. Okay. So don't forget, you don't have to do anything now. You don't have to put it in the chat. Just think about it, pray about it, meditate on it, and see what word would you like to choose for 2024, and think about sharing it with me. What are we here to talk about today? I'm going to get started. Long title: Building Bridges and Empowering Communication, Fostering Inclusive Communication for Black Professionals' Mental Health. Woo. Long title. So what does it mean? Today, we're going to be talking about, in our conversation today, about what it means to have inclusive communication and why it's important, and advocating for inclusive communication in your working environment, but not just any working environment. I'm going to be talking a little bit about doing that in a predominantly non-Black or white working environment. Okay. Communication is the foundation of all human relationships. The wonderful Maya Angelou tells us that it is the power to build bridges, right? We need to build bridges, create understanding, and connect hearts. I absolutely love this quote because it mentions connecting hearts. And I believe every kind of communication, effective communication, productive communication, should and needs to start with the heart. It should always involve the heart, right? It should start with the heart, and it should connect the heart. There's going to be a poll coming. I want to ask you all a question before we move forward, right? How often do you feel like your organization or company engages in inclusive communication? Okay. The poll should be popping up soon. Hopefully you can see it. How often do you feel like your organization or company engages in inclusive communication? Are you able to see it? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see the poll. Got it. Okay, great. Take a few minutes. Got it. Alrighty. Sometimes. Looks like the majority of people say sometimes, and at least 2 of our people said never. Okay. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? I don't see anybody that said always, right? Nobody said always, which is sad to me. It is sad to me that not one person felt like they were connected in that way in their workplace, right? Because this has a profound effect on our mental health, but I'm not surprised. Sad, but not surprised. A CNBC article says that less than 25% of Black employees feel included at work. But before we move forward, what exactly is inclusive communication? It's using language and making choices that ensures every member of the staff feels equally valued and respected, right? Simple enough, sounds simple enough. But why is it that less than 25% of Black employees feel included at work? Why? I want you to take some time and think about that. We're gonna put you in some breakout rooms, and I want you to discuss for about 3 to 5 minutes, maybe not 5, maybe 3 minutes. 5 is a little long. 3 minutes to talk about why you think less than 25% of Black people feel included at work. And when you come back, be ready to share in the chat. Do we have a way to time the breakouts?
I put it around 6 minutes in case they were like getting to talk with each other and then wanted to come back. But I can also end them early if you feel that I need to.
Okay.
It's like,
It can run to 5. It can run to 5. I said 3, but just to get them going, to make them feel like they might run out of time. Jane said she didn't see anybody in her
I think they
breakout.
were about 5 people who didn't join the breakout room.
Okay.
And so I think that because they make it based off of like 4 people, I
Oh,
just put
okay.
4 people in a room.
Okay.
I can see if
Is it possible that you kind of move those people who aren't in one? Are you able to do that?
um
Mary says she was the only one too.
I am only able to
Do it when you first.
join the breakout. Yeah. I can
Mhm.
make it to where there's more people in a breakout room so that I there's a if people end up not joining, then there was a
The
bigger
next
chance
time,
that
but the
there's
next time, not for this breakout room,
not for
right?
this one, but
Got
yeah,
it.
for the next one.
All right. That's fine. You getting it together. I said we getting it together. But you can end them when you get ready, Imagine. You can end them. Okay. Breakouts, are you all back from the breakouts? Give me a thumbs up if you're back. You had a chance to chat. I did see some people putting in the chat that they didn't see anybody in their breakout rooms. Sorry about that. I think it has something to do with the number of people that were assigned to be in the breakout room. But hopefully those that did get a chance to chat got some insight, got to talk to someone that they didn't know previous to today. But we'll have a chance to talk about it right now. Let's talk about it. In the chat, provide some of the reasons that you think Black professionals don't feel included at work. What were some of the things? White fragility. Okay. Yeah. What were some of the things y'all talked about? Other things you talked about? White fragility. Definitely. Definitely. That would mean white people aren't centered. Yeah. 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 Code switching. And too commonly, you are expected to assimilate to whiteness. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Heather, Shauna, Tara. Thank you. Absolutely. These are some great ones. Yeah, so there are a lot of reasons that Erica says it's the expectation to assimilate to white civility that I find particularly violent and harmful. Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that word violence because a lot of times when we don't think of it showing up in this way, right? As violence, but it definitely can be considered that being seen as aggressive or unprofessional. Brianna, yes, I told somebody just the other day, don't refer to me as aggressive. It's a word we don't like. We don't like it because just because it's not the way you would respond doesn't make it aggressive. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So there was this time when I was working for an organization and it was a non-black environment, mostly white, right? Just like we're talking. And the leader hired me to I'm a HR professional. We talked about that in the beginning. And the leader of the department hired me to be the only HR person at the organization, the only HR expert and that's important because the leader hired me to be the only HR professional, only HR expert in the building, a small company, right? Small company. And so even the leader of that department was not an HR expert, although the company was using that person as an HR person, but they were not. So they hired me to do it. And so then I'm at the table. I'm on the leadership team. So I'm there. And at the time I was the only black person on that leadership team. And But when I noticed I was there, but they never actually asked for or listened to my input. Many of my requests for like professional development or to be engaged in a conversation or be engaged in decision makings were actually denied. Pretty much, sometimes not even denied, ignored. Okay. In meetings, my the things that I did get to put input were undermined to the point that I actually stopped giving it. I stopped actually talking. And then after I did that, they noticed that I stopped talking. But the response was, instead of being exploratory and finding out, why is Morgan not talking? Why did Morgan stop contributing? Right. It was more of like, hey, Morgan, you're not contributing. This is what we need from you in so many words to keep your job. Right. And so it was more like it's your fault that you aren't talking. It's your fault that you aren't giving input, forgetting the fact that I was putting in input before, but it wasn't being listened to. But what was funny to me is that it wasn't just my leader. It was also the colleague. So it was almost like the habit was disseminated down to other people. And like this was the culture of the company, to like when someone new came in, or maybe when someone that looked like me came in, to have them there but not actually include them or have them feel valued. So it felt like I had gotten the job, I was at the table, but I wasn't actually being included. Non-inclusive communication doesn't always look the same, and it's not always obvious. It can look like someone undermining you in the meetings, or your opinions and ideas and thoughts being ignored, your expertise being not being publicly talked about, and basically leaving you out of the conversation. So what are the challenges that come along with an environment that doesn't practice inclusive communication, or there being a lack of inclusive communication? People don't feel included. They don't feel heard, right? So they stop talking. I just described to you a time when I stopped talking. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should stop talking, but sometimes that is the effect of not feeling like your opinion, your thoughts, and concerns matter. People don't bring their whole selves to work. They don't bring their whole selves to work, which leads to inauthenticity, right? And so if it's weighing on you that you can't bring your whole self to work, it can ultimately become of stress on your mental health. Now, this last one is interesting to me, and I find it more and more. It's like I've learned it more and more the deeper I got into human resources, and the longer I worked in the human resources field. Lower wages than white counterparts. Now, we know that historically, a lot of times people of color do not get paid as much as their white counterparts, but we don't always look at it from this angle that we don't ask, right? And a lot of times we don't ask because we don't feel like we can ask. And we don't feel like we can ask because we're often not listened to. So there was a time when I was talking with a leader in an office, and I was asking, well, why did so-and-so get this promotion or get this advancement and this person didn't? One Black and one white. And the white person apparently got the promotion because they asked, right? And the leader was saying, well, I didn't know I didn't know that person A wanted it because they didn't tell me, right? And so my question was, well, did you provide the opportunity for them to ask? Do you think that they felt like they could ask? Do you think that they feel, because the sentiment was that it was a clique, well, if I am not a part of this group of people, or if I don't look like this group of people, I'm not going to get the opportunity. Meanwhile, the leader is thinking, well, I didn't think they wanted it, right? Not the answer, right? Sometimes we don't ask because we don't think we can. We don't think we're going to be listened to. And who is that on? Now, how do you think this affects the mental health? I got another poll for you. I'm going to how likely are you to stay at a job where you feel your input is not valued? The poll should be publishing in just a second. So you can go ahead and answer it. Hopefully you can see it. How likely are you to stay at a job where you feel your input is not valued? I'm going to give it a couple more seconds, and then we'll see the results. How likely are you to stay at a job where you feel your input is not valued? The good thing is no one said very likely or likely, but we have a few I don't knows. And the great majority of you say, I'm out. I'm not staying. Good. Good. Because to stay would only be a detriment to your mental health. But there are people who stay for years. Think about some of the people who are on jobs for 20, 30, 40 years that where they don't feel valued. They've never felt valued, but they keep coming back. Think about that. And now imagine the state of their mental health, right? The good thing is, as we grow and we talk more and more about mental health and what it means, and the contribution that your job makes to your overall mental health, we're wising up and we're getting better at saying, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm out. I'm going to be doing something totally different because I am of value and I can. But if you were to stay in that type of environment, for some people, they feel that this is where they need to be, and even for a short time, right? Because we don't necessarily leave before we get something else a lot of times. So the mind is conditioned that my input doesn't matter. I don't have anything worth contributing, or no one is going to listen to me anyway. So it's important that we're paying attention when we're staying in these environments, because communication, or the lack thereof of communication, can cause conditioning and negative thinking patterns. The more leaders leave you out of the conversation, the more you expect to be left out of the conversation, thus possibly leading to the thoughts of like unworthiness and insignificance at work, right? And who wants to feel like that? I'm sure if I asked if you were okay with feeling like that, there would be no hands, no thumbs, or anything in the chat. And the detriment to this is the psychological safety that we're talking about more and more these days is threatened when we feel like we're not heard, or when we feel like we are silenced, excluded from communication. Being excluded from communication only reinforces the idea that our concerns and ideas, and maybe even us ourselves, are not valuable, right? This will lead to, a lot of times we don't think about how this might lead to stress and burnout, right? It's because we have a lot of pent up unexpressed concerns and frustrations, right? And this is what causes the stress and the burnout, because you wake up and you're just like, I don't want to do it today. I don't want to do it today because I know what it's going to be. And holding all of those things in will just create that feeling and the stress and the mental anguish. Employees who do not feel psychologically safe, they tend to lose motivation and sometimes a sense of purpose, leading to feelings of sadness and depression. Right? Communication builds bridges to well-being. Okay. So poor communication burns the bridges, right? Inclusive communication builds them, which allows us to connect to people in positive ways. The work that you do on a day to day, think about what you do every single day, the projects you're on, the people that you're supporting, it requires some sort of communication. So resolving that you're not going to communicate, or for leaders to resolve that they're not going to include certain people, you see, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it severs the ties, and it really hinders the ability to get the work done. Can you imagine I want you to put in the chat like a thumbs up or a hands up or a yes with an exclamation point if you've ever experienced a time when you have had to be responsible for completing a project or completing a task, but you weren't included in the conversation that requires you to do the task, right? There was like some information missing. You weren't even included on the idea that this needed to be done, right? Because if it was left up to you, you probably wouldn't even do this thing, right? Maybe it was something that could have been left undone, right? But you're required to perform. You're required to give results, and they should be good results, right? But you were left out of the conversation to even have it. Anybody had an experience like that? Yeah. Always pulled in at the last minute, right? Yes. Claire says yes. Sharon says yes. Phyllis says yes. Tiffany says often. Shauna says yep. Okay, Erica, I feel like you work at my job. I know that's right. It's funny how a lot of times we're experiencing the same things in different places, right? Absolutely. It's terrible to have an expectation, being required to perform and produce, but not having any input in the project. How does it make you feel though? Tell me that. Give me a word and give me a few words in the chat that tells me like what exactly does it make you feel? What do you want to do? This is a safe space. This is a safe space. How would you like to react to something like that? You can pick an emoji. You can use exclamation points. That's right. Congratulations to you, Erica, for leaving the job that made you feel undervalued. Undervalued, devalued. Yes. Great words. Great words. Enraged. Yeah. And then what do you got to do when you feel enraged? Be quiet, right? Or you feel like you got to be quiet. Yeah, I really want to watch them struggle without my expertise. Very natural response, Summer. Invisible, I feel like a moral injury. Mm-hmm. Enlightened. That's right. Yeah, these are good. These are good. All right. Another aspect of communication and mental health, microaggressions and code switching. I think somebody said something about code switching a little bit earlier in the chat, and I was glad to see that because these things absolutely have an effect on your mental health, right? I would like to put you in breakout sessions one more time. This time we'll do like 5 or 6 minutes. And can we make sure everybody gets into a breakout room? Maybe take it down to 3 people a room to see if we can get everybody in a room to share. And the question is, have you ever experienced microaggressions at work? Right? And tell us about it. Tell the people in your group about it. The time when you experience microaggressions at work. Tell us about it and tell us how you feel in the breakout. Whenever you're ready, Majid. Thank you.
There are still a few breakout rooms with only one person in them.
Oh, okay.
I do not know.
Okay. Can you? Is it okay to pull them out and try to put them in and do two a person? Are you
I
able to do
think
that?
in order to do that, I would have to completely like regroup everyone and then
Okay.
do two person. Do you want me to do that?
Like they're all gonna come back in this room, right?
Yeah,
And
everyone would come back and then I regroup them to two.
yeah, because this is the last one. I want to see if I can get everybody in. If it doesn't work,
Okay.
then we'll just have to.
Yes, of course.
I'll let them know that we're gonna try again. Okay, everyone, we're gonna put you back in. For some reason, it's still like not everybody's getting in one. We're gonna try one more time. This is our last breakout room, so I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to talk to someone. So I'm so sorry if you started talking already.
If you want to do
we're
two
gonna,
per
we're gonna
room,
try one. Yeah, we're gonna try one more time. If it doesn't work this time, I'm sorry. And then I'm sorry if they have to start over again.
It's okay.
I'm not seeing a prompt to go into a breakout room.
Is it popping up like at the top of the screen and you're missing it, the prompt? So I think someone said it's popping up at the top. She said no, nothing. I don't
I can
know.
try one more time if you want me to, and we
No,
can
don't
make
try
bigger numbers. But
It's all
like,
right. It's
okay,
all right. I don't want to pull them out again. It popped up the first time, but no one was there. Now I don't see anything.
I would just do it together, all together.
Okay. So we'll talk about it when we come back in the group. Is it possible to take anybody off of mute that wants to talk, Imaje, or does it have to all be in the
um,
chat?
I think if they would have to like join the session through our link if they wanted to go off.
Okay. No, it's fine. We'll work with the chat. We'll talk about it again when we come back. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys.
You know, it's okay.
Can you hear me?
People are able if they
You
ask.
can do that, right? Can't you
Yeah,
do that?
if
What's
I
that? I tried to ask to share audio. Oh, and it says waiting. Got it. Yep.
so now I see people in the bottom waiting. If you would like us to
And
do
then you
that.
give permission. Yeah. I think I heard that we could do that. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's how you say your name, Nakia?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Alrighty. So we can pull the breakout back, Imaje. We're gonna talk about it together. Alrighty. Thank y'all for your patience. Just so you know, I'm a Zoom girl. Zoom and Google Meets is what I use every single day. Okay. So yeah, but let's talk about this really quickly. We're getting shorter on time. What type of microaggressions? You can either ask for permission to come off of mute, ask to share your audio and video. I'll take a couple and then tell me how it made you feel. Or you can put it in the chat. You don't have to come and talk. You can put it in the chat. Either one is good. asking super personal questions, usually where do you live and do you have kids? Yeah, I see how that could be seen as a microaggression because, like, why do you need to know all of that? Yeah, yeah. I had a friend of mine tell me she was talking to a colleague not too long ago, and she's a black woman, and she was talking to a white male, and she had done something for the weekend and was like, "Oh, I went rock climbing or something like that." And he said, "Oh, you rock climb?" And it was like shock and awe, right? And so she was like, "Why?" She was thinking to herself, "Why are you surprised?" It seemed like a microaggression to her because it's like, "What? So you think black people can't rock climb?" Yeah, yeah. Oh, you speak so well. I've never met a black psychologist. Yeah. Comments on hair changes, bobs to braids. White supervisor commented on how African American women don't swim because they don't like to get their hair wet. Interesting. They said that out loud, huh? Being told that asking questions about system issues or setting a limit is not being a team player, being unfriendly, asking you to do things for the whole department's benefits while whites are left to do their own lane of work. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So microaggressions, and they are tough because a lot of times they can be hard to prove, right? You know something isn't right about what's said, like, and you can explain to us, right, that this person said this, and this is why they shouldn't have said that. But sometimes they can feel like it's hard to get people to believe that it's a microaggression, and that difficulty is what is the thing that can weigh on the mental health. And code switching. Not too long ago, I made a TikTok about the skill to be able to code switch, and it was kind of a really relatable joke. And I made this relatable joke about my ability to code switch. And I said, I can't remember exactly the words that I said, but I said something like, you should be able to get paid to do this. And I said something like, hey girl, you can come in. How you doing? I know that's right. Like a phrase that I know I say all the time. And I learned from my mother and her mother and all of those things. And then I said, yeah, I can meet you at 10 p.m., 10 a.m., just before the check-in. Come on by. And then I cut to saying something like, pasa por favor, ¿en qué le puedo ayudar? Because not only do I have worked in a mostly white environment, I work in a bilingual environment. So there have been times when I felt like I had to put on 3 different personas to get through my day, right? And so why do you think, just think about this, why do you think code switching may have an effect on your mental health? So, how do we build inclusive communication? We need to change the way that we do things. Actively seek diverse perspective, listen actively, do inclusive meeting practices, and lead by example, right? Remember I said before that the things disseminate down from the leaders. If, we teach people how to treat us. If the leaders think that it's okay, and then the other people see that the leaders are doing that, then they're going to probably wind up doing the same things. You practice respect and empathy. If you're able to practice the respect and empathy, then it just should be a common thread through the way that you treat people and the way that we show up, right? It's a part of the fabric. So it's not a box that you have to check to have inclusive communication, because when you're practicing respect and empathy for all of those around you, it should and could just show up. But I've been talking this whole time like it's you're the one advocating for the inclusive communication, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of times we are the ones advocating for ourselves, right? But what if nobody listens? We have to get creative. We have to find ways to change practices and procedures and provide our reasonings, right? Because sometimes if we're able to change the practices and procedures, you have people following these inclusive communication guidelines and equitable practices without them even knowing it, right? Advocating for inclusive communication means making it also mutually beneficial, right? If colleagues and leaders see the benefits in change in practices, policies, and procedures for them and for the organization, they're more likely to buy into it. And if we can get them to buy into it, and if people are buying into it, then you thus create allies, right? But sometimes inclusive communication can feel like this. Today is the day I can feel it. Today I will catch that tail. Of course, we know when a dog is chasing his tail, it's never going to catch it. is never catching it, right? And sometimes we feel the urge to give up, right? But advocating can have its benefits. If you've made it this far, right? So far that you're having this kind of conversation, or you're being included at the table, or you're being included in the conversation, you're making progress. So fight the urge to give up. But there are effects of advocacy, right? And so you want to make sure you're also taking care of yourself in your own advocacy, right? Make sure you're telling yourself the better story. You're making progress, believe it, and keep going, right? Get yourself a support system. If you follow me, if you ever decide to follow me on social media, or you talk to me even after this, you will learn that I advocate for a support system no matter what you're going through. Difficulty at work, diagnoses, any type of hard time, right? You need to get your support system, and you focus on your spiritual guidance and being able to disconnect when you need to, right? Rest is so super important, and it will help you get through those times of the difficult workplace and the isolation that comes along with advocating for something that you need to see happen in your difficult workplace. I want to take the last couple of minutes and see if anyone has any questions. I want to try to get to some questions that might have been in the chat. But if I don't get to your question, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Again, my name is Morgan Carey with Love to Life Coaching LLC. I'm a mental health, breast cancer, and communication coach. If you want to reach out to me, remember you can contact me at lovetolifecoach.com and mcarey at lovetolifecoach.com. And I can be found on Instagram mostly at llcoach_Morgan. So remember, once you figure out that word that you want to use for the year, tell me about it. And tell me about it in any one of those places where you can get in contact with me, and you get a free coaching session with me, and you can get coached in any area that I coach in. Communication, breast cancer, if you know someone that needs a breast cancer coach, and mental health. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Nakia. Thank you for pouring into us. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Phyllis, Seema, Claire.